So last week, Reddit blew up with a front page story. Netflix completely screwed over this creator. Someone named Cynthia Kao or Cynthia Kao, I apologize if I don't know how to pronounce it, had posted something to TikTok, which got reposted to Reddit. And let's take a look at what she has to say. And I'm going to talk about why I think Netflix didn't completely screw over this creator. I realize this is a controversial topic, but bear with me and see if you agree, and then we'll talk about it in the comments of my video.
4.5 years ago, in 2016, I wrote and directed a short called Groundhog Day for a Black Man, which is about a black man who relives the same day over and over and tries different methods to survive a police interaction. Then, 1 year ago, after the murder of George Floyd, I got an email from NowThis News. They said, "We've recently seen your short film, Groundhog Day for a Black Man, and found it very powerful. We would love to amplify it and share the message with our audience." They ended up posting it to their Facebook and their Twitter page. Then 1 year after NowThis posts my short, Netflix puts out a short called Two Distant Strangers on April 9th, 2021. And it's about a black man who lives the same day over and over again and tries to survive a police interaction. This hit me when I saw in the opening credits in association with NowThis. This past Sunday, they just won an Oscar for that short, Two Distant Strangers. And I don't know what happened. I'm not making any assumptions.
So, at first glance, that sounds really terrible. It sounds like Netflix copied her short movie and got it Oscar nominated and won an Oscar without giving her any credit for her creation. Without any more information, I could see why people are outraged when you have a title like Netflix completely screwed over this creator with a short video like that. I can see why people would be outraged. But the devil is in the details and an understanding of how copyright law works. And I'm stressing works. I don't just mean, oh, this isn't how it works. This isn't how anything works. I mean, this is literally a philosophical difference or distinction in copyright law, the idea/expression dichotomy or distinction that we're going to need to go over in order to understand this. Before we go over the videos, let's go over the law real quick. I talked about this a little bit in a recent video, the Design Basics video. Design Basics was a company that made house floor plans. They made very basic design basics. They made very basic house floor plans, and then they went around trying to get everybody who used a similar floor plan to pay them money as a license fee. And the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals recently roasted them as a copyright troll, literally calling them a copyright troll. Well, I'm not going to go over this whole thing again. I'm going to go over just a few lines of it to give you an idea of what we're about to talk about so that you can understand it through a new lens. Importantly, the Copyright Act limits the scope of copyright protection. One prominent limitation captures the traditional copyright principle known as the idea/expression dichotomy, the line that separates copyrightable expression from non-copyrightable ideas and facts. In no case does copyright protection for an original work of authorship extend to any idea or concept, regardless of the form in which it is described, explained, illustrated, or embodied in such work. Importantly, proof of actual copying is necessary, as we're going to argue here that Cynthia Kao's video or movie was actually copied in some way, either in concept or actual copying of her actual expression. We'll see that in a moment. But here it says proof of actual copying is necessary, but not sufficient to establish liability for infringement. Not all copying is copyright infringement. So the plaintiff must also prove that defendant's copying was wrongful, that the defendant took enough of her protected expression as opposed to unprotectable ideas, concepts, facts, etc., to constitute unlawful appropriation of her expressive work. Wrongful copying, unlawful appropriation, requires substantial similarity between the defendant's work and the protected elements in the plaintiff's copyrighted work. So that tells us that only the expression of an idea or concept is protected, and only some expressions are protected. There are expressions that are not protected. The one that's going to apply here, in my legal opinion, is scène à faire, which is spelled scenes à faire, which is a French term meaning scenes that are done, or staging that is done. Standard elements in any genre called scène à faire in copyright law get no copyright protection. Scène à faire are so rudimentary, commonplace, standard, or unavoidable that they do not serve to distinguish one work within a class of works from another. If standard elements received copyright protection, then a creation of a single work in a genre would prevent others from contributing to that genre, because the copyright owner would have exclusive rights in all of the genre's basic elements. So an example that I've given before, my stupid little overlay here is not copyrightable as an overlay. Anybody can create their own overlay. They can't use the Lawful Masses logo, but they can put a document on the right and the video on the left and the logo on the upper left. And that's not something that's copyrightable. That's not even scène à faire. That's just not creative enough to be copyrighted. Likewise, the concept of a time loop movie, like Groundhog Day, is not a copyrightable concept. Certainly, Harold Ramis and Danny Rubin's screenplay is copyrightable. The movie that they made out of a time loop concept is copyrightable, but the concept of man is stuck in a time loop and can't get out until he improves himself in some way is not copyrightable. Let's look at Cynthia Kao's production here. It's relatively short. We'll show just some short segments of it. So this is the Groundhog Day for a Black Man produced by Cynthia Kao. So we've got a particular character laying in his bed, very reminiscent of the Harold Ramis Groundhog Day, the Bill Murray Groundhog Day. It starts with the same song, and it starts with the flip clock, which is also very reminiscent of Groundhog Day, the Harold Ramis production.
You got a broken taillight back there. Can I see some ID? Oh. What are you reaching for?
My ID.
All right.
Okay.
What are you reaching for?
The thing you asked me for!
And then the man is stuck in a time loop. And so obviously it's a satirical take on the state of police interactions with persons of color in the United States right now, which is unfortunately a thing that's been happening. And so her production continues, and the man tries different ways to get through the police interaction.
Let me see some ID.
Yes, sir. I am going to reach down now, very slowly.
Don't be stupid! Don't be stupid! Very funny. Registration? You have a firearm on you today, sir?
This is an open carry state, sir, and there is a firearm in the glove box.
All right, let me see it.
Okay.
Do you have a firearm on you today?
No, sir, just a book. Yep.
So obviously he tries various techniques to get through the day. I think he eventually walks instead of taking his car.
Where are you headed?
My mom's, then work.
Got a call about someone matching your description. Get on the ground.
For what?
Then he puts on a suit.
A man of the Lord. You got an APB out on grilled cheese? No matter what I do, no matter how I act, no matter what I wear, you all are still gonna shoot me?
Get down on the ground.
Uh-oh.
Then he puts on a police uniform. And apparently shoots himself.
License and registration, please.
Oh, hello!
Then he tries to pull the Mrs. Doubtfire.
Wait a second.
Then the officer sees that his hands are dark-skinned.
Hey, hold up.
And then, seemingly without exposition or explanation, he runs into this black police officer who doesn't shoot him, which I guess is maybe the point, is that it's a problem with white officers. I'm not entirely sure. I'll let the artist and the art speak for itself and not try to be an analyst myself. And what would be copyright infringement in that case is if Netflix and NowThis had copied that expression of the idea of a time loop movie where someone has to try different things in order to get through the time loop and get out of the loop. So Ms. Kao had spoken about how NowThis approached her, and NowThis had made a 3-minute short, about a 1/4 shorter version of her film, and they did the NowThis news thing where they put text over it. The original got 3.5 million views, and this one has 1.5 million views, so I guess it worked out what they were doing. And so they made their own version of this, which seems to be just a shorter version with some text, captions, basically. So that part was made with permission, and therefore that's not copyright infringement because that was made with permission. But then a year later, you've got Netflix with this Two Distant Strangers. Now, first, it looks like these are two different actors. And yes, it does say it's a 2021 Oscar winner. I'm not sure how it gets nominated in April and then Oscar winner in May. I don't know how that works. Maybe I don't understand the Oscars. But let's take a quick look at maybe not the actual Netflix production here, but at least I want to see the intro here to see what they did. So it says, in association with NowThis and a production company called 6 Feet Over. And this is half an hour long, and we're not going to go over it all, but I want to show that there are differences. You've still got a person of color in a bed, but this time with a partner. The person wants to get back to their dog, which I don't think was part of the Cynthia Kao production. There's some, what seems to be character exposition for the first 5 minutes. He's holding the door open for somebody. I'm going to turn off the music because of copyright. And then the person walks along, lights up a cigarette, he bumps into somebody. Seems like a cop scene is coming up here, and then there's a cop.
Here. Nah, sir, it's no problem. Man.
He's not in a car.
Is that a cigarette?
Yes, it is.
It don't smell like no cigarette.
With all due respect, sir, your sense of smell is not my problem.
It's a lot of money for a guy with a not-so-cigarette-smelling cigarette. What kind of business we in?
Graphic design. I make comic books. Can I say? I'm in demand.
Do me a favor,
Why
son.
you? What the? Why you
Put the
touching
bag
me,
down
man?
and step against the wall for me.
What? I'm good, actually, man.
I'm not good.
Listen, man. For what?
All right, tough guy.
So it's obviously a completely different interaction. There's multiple officers involved.
Get off me! Get off me! I can't breathe! I can't breathe!
And he dies from a chokehold instead of being shot. And then he wakes up in his bed, and the time loop begins. And he tries various different ways to get through the interaction. Each time it fails.
Officer Merck.
Wait, what?
This time he goes up to the officer.
Look, man, I'm not sure what the is going on. Maybe some racist deja vu shit, but I think we're stuck in some kind of loop where I keep running into you. You keep killing me, man.
Now I know you're smoking.
Yeah, you
Yes.
think my cigarette's not a cigarette. We've been through this, man. Look.
Hey, back up. Show me some ID. Keep your hands where I can see them.
That sounds like a trap. But okay, dude. This is the part where I open up my bag. You see that wad of cash and you say,
It's a
lot of money for a guy with a not-so-cigarette-smelling cigarette.
And this has been happening how long? How much?
And so he escapes that encounter, goes around the corner, he lights his cigarette. Some kids go by. And then he's shot and he wakes up again. I think that's enough for us to understand that there are differences between these two productions. So, Two Distant Strangers, graphic designer Carter James tries to get home to his dog the morning after a first date only to find himself trapped in a time loop Each encounter ends with Carter being killed by police. In one version of the loop, riot police bust into his apartment, mistaking it for a different apartment. After 99 deaths, he decides to discuss a situation with Officer Merck. Carter tells him about the time loop, offering Merck evidence by predicting what people around them will do. Carter asks Merck to drive him home. The journey ends without mishap. Merck and Carter get out of the patrol car and shake hands, but as Carter turns to enter his apartment, Merck starts applauding what he calls Carter's noble performance, revealing that Merck remembers the previous loops too. Merck then shoots him in the back with a pool of blood starts forming. In the shape of Africa, see you tomorrow, kid. Carter wakes up once more. Undeterred, he leaves and makes another effort to get home, and I believe it fades to black there. This is the Nasib idea-expression dichotomy problem embodied in a short film satirizing and trying to raise awareness of the situation people of color encounter themselves in or find themselves in during encounters with police. And in my professional opinion, there is no copyright infringement. Her film was 4 minutes. Her film only expressed so many ideas, and she does not own the idea or concept behind her expression. She owns the expression. If Netflix took and made a shot-for-shot remake of her original video, then definitely that's copyright infringement. If they copied her 4-minute short and published it on Netflix or anywhere else, without her permission, without her compensation, without her accreditation, that would be copyright infringement, 100%, no doubt. But they didn't copy her expression, they copied her idea. And let's back up for a second. If she could own a copyright to the idea of time loop movie where man must improve his efforts to get through the day before he's allowed out of the daily time loop, she wouldn't own that. Harold Ramis would own Groundhog Day. In fact, she used the term Groundhog Day in her title. So if you're going to apply the standard that Netflix couldn't copy her idea, then she couldn't copy Harold Ramis's idea either. That's not, and that's the reason why that's not the standard for copyright infringement. You are allowed to be inspired by someone else's idea. You are allowed to be inspired by Harold Ramis and Danny Rubin's Groundhog Day and make your own daily time loop movie, which has whatever idea behind it. And I'm pretty sure lots of productions have made a time loop movie. Sure, we're approaching the uncanny valley of substantial similarity. I think we stop short of it, but we're approaching it when you now add the concept or idea of a person of color experiencing a police encounter over and over again in order to satirize or raise awareness of the experience of those people with police in America. Sure, that's a little bit more definition, a little bit more. But you need a lot more. You need the expression itself to be copied. And the idea behind it, that's not protected. That can be copied over and over and over again, and you can tell that story over and over and over again. How else would you tell a time loop movie without, one, having a time loop, without, two, having some events that set the basis for what's happening in the time loop, without then having a protagonist that improves or attempts to improve themselves or their time loop experience on the basis of the loop, the period of the loop, in this case, a day. And then when you add in, it's a person of color's interaction with police officers, no one can have a copyright on any one of those concepts, nor does anyone have a copyright or any protection on the combining of those concepts into a production. They have a copyright on how they produced, how they expressed that concept. And what you have here is two artists who decided to express their ideas in different ways. And you have this concrete connection. NowThis had been inspired, had been exposed to, had literally access to Cynthia Kao's video, her short film. And then they collaborated with Netflix to make a new short film. The original Cynthia Kao's is 4 minutes and 15 seconds long. The Netflix is just over half an hour long. So there's obviously a lot more detail and a lot more production to Netflix's production than to Cynthia Kao's. And that's, of course, something that Netflix can do. Netflix has a lot of money to put into quality productions. They have production standards. You have to use certain cameras, etc. They made their own original expression of the concept of the time loop movie, and that's okay. Copyright is supposed to encourage the creation of new works, the promotion of the sciences, and the useful arts. And it does so by balancing this idea expression dichotomy, and only the expression in a tangible medium gets protection. Only certain parts of your expression get protected. You can't protect functional items. You can't protect scène faire like we went over before. You can't protect ideas. You can only protect expression that falls outside of those unprotectable elements. And there's lots of case law that deals with what's protectable and what's not. And we've gone over just a small portion of the overall concepts that define limits on copyright protection. So yes, you could be outraged that Netflix copied the concept of a time loop movie that Cynthia Kao came up with, that Harold Ramis came up with first. And probably the time loop concept existed before Groundhog Day. I can't think of an example. I'm a Gen Xer, millennial, someone on the border there, and my first exposure in memory to a time loop movie like that is Groundhog Day. So Cynthia Kao, in my opinion, sure, she can feel bad that she missed an opportunity. There are times that I look at larger YouTubers like Legal Eagle and go, I wonder what I could have done differently to become as popular as Legal Eagle. And that's maybe a little bit of envy, maybe a little bit of inspiration or aspiration. I feel like this is being presented to us as if something was taken from Cynthia Kao, as if she was left out of the process, instead of it being that someone took the initiative to make a bigger production. Her video has 3.5 million views. I don't feel like she's been completely left out of the process. She gave permission to NowThis to make the 1.5 million view video that they did. So those were all conscious decisions that she made, and they resulted in a very popular production. Netflix took the idea and concept to the next level, very much like Legal Eagle has taken his videos and his production quality and the production methods to the next level, and he reaps the rewards. I can't say that I have a copyright on law explainer videos. I certainly wasn't the first to make law explainer videos. Ken White was making them before me, and there were a handful of YouTube channels run by lawyers doing something similar before I ever got started. I can't say that they copied my concept and therefore I've been wronged and they've committed copyright infringement. They took the idea and concept and did it better. The same thing that Netflix has done here. And what this should be doing is encouraging people like Cynthia Kao and me to take their production to the next level, to figure out better marketing, to figure out better production, to figure out how to make the connections with companies like Netflix so that they can move up into the big leagues like NowThis and 6 Feet Over have been able to do. That's just the way the world works. If we were to do the opposite, if we were to protect the concept of a Groundhog Day-esque time loop movie, then the first person, group, or company to make that expression of that concept would own that concept, and nobody else could do it. You don't want that. No one wants that to be true, except maybe that first person. If there's a company out there who can be the first, well, that's going to look an awful lot like patent. And some of these very same sites, like Reddit, often complain about the first company that gets a patent on something and then exploits that patent. And so, for example, patents on how to manufacture and handle quality control and distribution of insulin, for example, have caused insulin prices to spike hundreds of times. That's wrong. But then when we apply a similar concept to copyright, everyone's outraged that someone copied Cynthia Kao's concept for a time loop movie. These two things cannot exist in the same philosophy. You have to challenge your own philosophy, realize that copyright can only protect certain kinds of expression, and understand that the ideas and concepts behind those are not protected, and we want that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Did I change your mind? Did I help clarify anything? Do you have your own argument for why you think these two works are copies of each other, that Netflix's work is a copy of Cynthia Kao's, or is it Netflix's own expression of the idea behind Cynthia Kao's idea? Let me know in the comments below. That's an interesting point, Katrina, that Netflix worked with NowThis worked with Cynthia, but Netflix didn't credit Cynthia. What would Netflix credit Cynthia with? Credits are a negotiated thing in movies, and Cynthia was not, I don't think she was asked to be involved. It sounds like NowThis took the initiative to create their own time loop concept in connection with their own person. I already forget who the other collaborator was. And it sounds like they approached Netflix. I don't have all the details of the deal, but it sounds like Cynthia Kao was not approached to be part of that. And there is no requirement. Maybe you can be morally outraged that she wasn't included, but there is no requirement to credit people for having an idea. There's absolutely no legal requirement to credit someone for their idea in copyright. They made their own production. And so the credits go to the people who expressed their idea in a tangible medium. Those people have a copyright. Those people directly contributed. Imagine we're at a bar and I said, wouldn't it be cool if we made a space story where a tardigrade wrapped itself around somebody and protected them in space because tardigrades can exist in space. And then somebody went and made a movie all about tardigrades in space. I'm using the Anas Abdeen situation. Do you have to give credit to the person who sat in the bar and said, I think it'd be cool if you made a movie about tardigrades in space? No, you don't have to do that. I'm not saying that no person could ever be morally outraged that that doesn't happen, but do you really want to start requiring it in the law and making legal claims anytime someone expresses an idea and someone else goes and works off of that idea without copying the copyright protected expression? I don't think you want that. When we're talking about cases like Marina, the piano keys, and how her work was claimed, you'd have a lot more claims. Someone would have the idea that you could make piano tutorials on YouTube, and then the first person who has that idea would claim everybody's video who made piano tutorials on YouTube, and a court would have to start interpreting where is the difference between the original idea and a following idea, where is the proximate cause, where is the legal connection. When you drive down the road and you hit traffic and you're late to work because somebody had a car collision / accident down the road, how many people get to claim damages from the original car collision? Well, we have to analyze who was at fault in the car collision. Then we have to analyze, we usually have something with proportionate comparative negligence or contributory negligence, where we have to decide what percentage each person is at fault. Maybe I didn't use my signal, but two cars merged into the same lane, but one didn't use its signal and one did. One was merging to pass on the right, one was merging to pass on the left. Who's going to be proportionally more at fault? Then we have to figure out how many cars, how many people were affected by that, and what are their legal claims. If I'm delayed because I stopped to call police, do I have a claim? If I'm delayed because the cars blocked the road, do I have a legal claim? If I'm 50 cars back and I chose not to get off the highway when I saw the traffic, do I have a legal claim? There's something called proximate cause. How many people in the chain have legal claims? And in the US, we usually cut that off pretty quickly. It's usually only the first and maybe second parties that have a claim. If I see a workplace accident and I'm affected by the blood and guts and gore of the workplace accident, but the accident didn't happen to me, do I have a legal claim? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. If the person told me about a disaster and I fainted and I, had post-traumatic stress disorder because someone told me about a disaster, do I have a claim against the person who created the disaster? Or even the person who told me about it? Very likely not, because proximate cause cuts off any legal remedy, any causal chain. You have the factual causal chain, which means, yes, I wouldn't have fainted unless somebody told me about it. They wouldn't have told me about it unless it happened. But then you have the proximate cause that says, well, we don't recognize that factual causal chain as having a legal remedy. So there is a cutting off of where this idea expression dichotomy goes from legally recognizable to not. And the law in copyright has chosen to cut it off where the idea goes to expression. And so if you don't have the same expression, then you don't have a copyright infringement or copyright protection. If you just have an idea, then you don't have copyright protection. And that's our show. Thanks for joining me. I'm Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney, and this is Lawful Masses, your favorite legal news and education program here on YouTube, also on Floatplane and on twitch.tv/lawfulmasses, live on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. This is a community-supported channel, which means I need your money. It takes time and effort to make these videos, and in order to make room in my life, I need to also have support. So I really appreciate your support on patreon.com/ljfrench or sponsors.com/law. You can support the channel through YouTube memberships, or you can support the channel through Floatplane subscriptions. Thank you very much in the month of May to the following $50 plus supporters: Joe Tyson, John Steele, Gavin Barnard, Eevi, Spirit Bear, Benjamin Hitov, Ugly Grill, Rudolph Bescherer Jr., Brandyn, Abel, Torpedan, RDHDragon, Earthbound Star, and ShadowTycho. And thank you to the $5 plus supporters who are scrolling on the screen in front of me. You're all on the LED tablet behind me. I love you all. Thank you for joining me. I'm Leonard French. I'll see you in the videos that drop and the comments below.